Comey denies President Trump's unsubstantiated claims that the FBI tapped Trump Tower at President Obama's request. His new call to set the record straight. The White House responds right here on GMA this morning.
Developing overnight, North Korea firing 4 banned ballistic missiles. The new threat from their leader provoking the Trump administration and a swift reaction around the globe this morning.
Caught on camera. A masked man attacks a woman working at a hotel, captured on surveillance cameras stalking his victim, then trying to drag her away. How this brave worker fought back, the one thing she did that helped put him behind bars.
And the ABC News exclusive. The King of Pop's oldest son, Prince Michael Jackson, here live, speaking out in a rare interview about keeping his father's legacy alive, how he's following in his dad's footsteps, and what life is like now for the Jackson children. Revealed right here only on GMA.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
Good morning, America. It is a Monday packed with news. And, Robin, you've got that big exclusive with Prince Michael Jackson.
You remember I had a chance to speak with him about 6 years ago. Well, he's 20 years old now and really coming into his own. We cannot wait to talk to him in our next half hour. But first, we're going to get right to that new fallout from President Trump's stunning claim accusing President Obama of wiretapping phones in Trump Tower before the election, all this without offering proof. The former administration is denying those accusations.
3 big questions this morning. Number 1, did President Obama order an illegal wiretap at Trump Tower? Does President Trump have any evidence at all to back up that explosive claim? And will Trump's Justice Department publicly deny the allegations as requested by FBI Director James Comey? Our chief investigative correspondent Brian Ross starts us off. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, George and Robin. Well, in just a few minutes, with a few hundred characters on Twitter, President Trump managed to impugn the integrity of both President Obama and the FBI and spread what senior intelligence officials say this morning is a huge falsehood. The actual source of the president's stunning claim the FBI bugged Trump Tower on the orders of President Obama remains a mystery this morning. But today, the outraged FBI director, James Comey, may learn whether the Justice Department will agree to go public, as he has asked, and correct the president for what Comey says are false statements about wiretapping. The former DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, has already gone public to refute the president's assertions.
For the part of the national security apparatus that I oversaw as DNI, there was no such wiretap activity mounted against the president-elect at the time, or as a candidate, or against his campaign.
The only White House official to speak publicly since the tweets, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, appeared on the ABC program this week and tried to change the subject when Martha Raddatz pressed for an answer about the source.
The President of the United States is accusing the former president of wiretapping him.
I think that this is, again, something that if this happened, Martha,
If.
I agree.
There was no if in the president's Twitter messages, rather that the wiretaps actually did happen. Quote, terrible. Just found out that Obama had my wires tapped in Trump Tower just before the victory. Nothing found. This is McCarthyism. As president, Mr. Trump has unlimited access to the country's greatest secrets. But it seems increasingly clear that he instead relied heavily on questions raised in a Fox News report Friday night.
Are you concerned, on the flip side, that the Obama administration may have been surveilling members of the Trump campaign?
And on the conservative Breitbart website, which Friday highlighted a conspiracy-loving radio talk show host, Mark Levin.
How many of Trump's people were eavesdropped on? How many had their conversations intercepted, recorded, transcribed? Because this, ladies and gentlemen, is the big scandal.
A spokesman for former President Obama joined the chorus of those calling the president's allegations false. His former White House national security aide, Ben Rhodes, responded, no president can order a wiretap. Those restrictions were put in place to protect citizens from people like you. If Trump were to be right that there was a wiretap, it would also mean the FBI felt it had developed enough evidence of collusion between the Russians and the Trump campaign to actually get a special panel of judges, not the White House, to approve a wiretap. George and Robin.
Well, as we know, the FBI Director, James Comey, is firing back against the president's claims and asking the Justice Department to set the record straight. Our senior justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, joins us now from Washington. Pierre, why is James Comey taking this step of challenging the president?
Sources tell me that Comey believes that what President Trump tweeted was misleading and inaccurate, and all but suggested that the Bureau acted improperly. Protecting the integrity of the FBI is a huge issue for Comey, and it looks like he's laying down the marker here, Robin.
So the director of the FBI going head-to-head with the President of the United States. How does this play out, Pierre?
This is potentially explosive because you're talking about two strong-willed men. Depending on how Trump reacts, he may find out how fiercely independent Comey can be. And it's complicated because Attorney General Jeff Sessions just recused himself from having anything to do with the investigation into the 2016 campaign, including Russian influence. So Comey will likely have to deal directly with the acting Deputy Attorney General. He's waiting for an answer. Comey is the man who stood up to George W. Bush's White House when he felt they were operating a surveillance program that was not constitutional, and faced a firestorm for reopening the Hillary Clinton email investigation just days before the election. When Comey thinks he's right, he's shown that he's prepared for withering scrutiny and political heat. We'll find out soon if Comey and the president can coexist, Robin.
You mentioned the Attorney General recusing himself. How do you feel that will factor in?
Well, it's complicated because, again, you have an acting Deputy Attorney General who will probably be consulting the career people about what to do. No one knows how this is going to turn out, Robin.
All right, Pierre, thank you. George?
Okay, thanks, Robin. We are now joined from the White House by Sarah Huckabee Sanders, spokesperson for the president. Sarah, thank you for joining us this morning. So we now know that the FBI director has told the Justice Department that President Trump's explosive claims are inaccurate. Does President Trump accept the FBI director's denial?
You know, I don't think he does, George. I think he firmly believes that this is a storyline that has been reported pretty widely by quite a few outlets. The wiretapping has been discussed in the New York Times, BBC, Fox News, and we believe that it should be looked at by the House Intelligence Committee.
Sarah, I have got to stop you right there. Every single article you just mentioned does not back up the president's claim that President Obama had him wiretapped. Not a single one of those articles backs that up. So what is the president's evidence?
It does back up the fact that the administration was wiretapping American citizens. There was a wide reporting suggesting that his administration, whether it was directly ordered by this president specifically, his administration could have done this.
Sarah, I have got to stop you again. No, Sarah, I've got to stop you again because that is simply not true. All the articles you just mentioned, not one of them says that President Trump ordered a wiretap. One of them based on
President
Obama. One of them based on anonymous sources says there might have been a court-ordered FISA wiretap. That has been denied by the former director of national intelligence, James Clapper.
Look, I love how now anonymous sources don't matter anymore. We've been dealing with anonymous sources and having to fight back against that for the last 6 months. It's funny how the media
but Sarah,
now
hold
starts
on a second. Sarah, even if that one is true, that is saying it was a court-ordered wiretap, not an illegal wiretap ordered by President Obama.
Look, it would have been under this administration, George. You don't get to just wash your hands of something, whether it's the Justice Department under which you control, which would have fallen under this administration and under this past president. I think the bigger question here is let's let the House Intelligence Committee do its job, George.
That is not true.
They committed over the weekend.
Sarah, hold on a second. Hold on a second. That is not true. There's a world of difference between an illegal wiretap ordered by a president and a court-ordered wiretap approved by a federal judge. There's a world of difference between those two things.
The fact that it was being done is a story that we should be talking about, George, and all we're asking is that we let Congress do its job. Let's let the House Intelligence Committee review this, investigate it, as they committed to do over the weekend. Look, there have been constant allegations. The hypocrisy on this story is absolutely outrageous. We have dealt with this for the last 6 months, where the New York Times calls this story false. The FBI comes out and says it's BS. The House Intelligence Committee says there's no evidence. Yet the people in the media continue to report a false narrative that there are connections between the Trump campaign and the Russians when there simply aren't. All we're asking is the same fair deal here, that the House Intelligence Committee is given the opportunity to investigate, review this, and see if there's anything there,
Sarah,
which we believe there is.
It is not a fact that this has been done. You do not know that it is a fact that this has been done, and that has been denied by President Obama, by the former director of national intelligence, and now we know as well by the FBI director. They are all saying it did not happen. So is the president calling all three of those individuals liars?
Not at all. He's asking that we allow the House Intelligence Committee to do its job the same way we have done on our situation. It's very interesting, George, how when this past president says it's false, everybody's like, oh, well, obviously it is. But when we've been saying it for the last 6 months, nobody believes it. Frankly, George, I think if the president walked across the Potomac, the media would report that he can't swim. This is a constant battle that we're having to fight. All we're asking is that this double standard be washed away and that we allow the Congressional Committee to do their job.
Sarah, the president made these allegations 48 hours ago. Has he called the FBI director since he made those allegations and asked if they were true?
I don't know that he has talked directly with the FBI director, but I do believe that, again, we go back to, we've put out a statement asking that we allow Congress to do its job and investigate and do a full review of this process.
The president administers the Justice Department. The president administers the intelligence agencies. He can find out for himself. He can ask his FBI director if this is true. He can ask his Justice Department if this is true. He can ask the Director of National Intelligence if this is true. Has he done that?
Look, I don't know that actually that is the case, George. From my understanding is that there is a process that this has to follow, and in order to go through that process, the first step is a congressional review, and that's what we're asking to take place right now.
But bottom line, the president does not accept the FBI director's denial.
I don't know that he has gotten a firm denial from the FBI.
He does not accept the reporting that the FBI director has said this did not happen. Does the president accept that or not?
The president wants the truth to come out to the American people, and he is asking that it be done through the House Intelligence Committee and that be the process that we go through. Sarah,
thanks for joining us this morning.
You bet. Thanks, George.
A lot to dig into now. We're here with our team. Let me start with our chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams. What a showdown, Dan. You've now got the President of the United States accusing his predecessor and, by implication, the FBI of committing a felony. The FBI director saying the President of the United States isn't telling the truth.
Right. And the problem is that this current administration is making it sound like we're all relying on media reports, right? That there's no way to determine right now what actually happened. When, of course, there is. As you asked the question, he could go ask the FBI director. There are other things he can do. By the way, he can also declassify information if he so chooses. So if he wants to prove this, he very well may be able to do it. And the other thing is to keep calling it the Obama administration's wiretap, right? We're talking about this.
Explain the difference between the two kinds of wiretaps that are at issue here.
But first of all, let's talk about the fact that it's the same FBI director, right? Who's there now, who was there before. So the Obama administration FBI guy is the Trump administration FBI guy right now. And that's the same guy who did the Hillary Clinton investigation, who many people believe sent out a letter that harmed Hillary Clinton's campaign. So if that's the Obama administration doing that, that seems pretty odd. Now, when we're talking about investigations, we talked a lot about this FISA court, right? And that's the question is, did the FISA court approve it? The FISA court is a foreign intelligence gathering court. That's all they do. They don't investigate crimes, and you need some level of proof. You need to be able to prove probable cause in order to get that kind of warrant.
But even the former director of national intelligence saying that didn't happen.
Interesting that you said that Comey is the FBI director right now, and you are our chief White House correspondent. You have been seeing all this come down today. What's your take on everything?
Well, look, I think Comey is in an absolutely untenable situation. He has come out now privately, played out on the front pages of the New York Times, but a private request to the Justice Department to publicly refute this claim. Apparently, the Justice Department has not gone along with that. Remember, the Attorney General has recused himself, so this would go to the acting Deputy Attorney General. But look, if they are not going to come out, what is Comey going to do? Is he going to come out himself on his own unilaterally, or is he going to resign? It seems to be that big an issue. As I understand it, the way this request went from Comey to the Justice Department was making the case that this claim undermines the very credibility of the FBI and the Justice Department to have the public think they would do something like this. He wants this refuted.
And that's it right there. Oh, by the way, the travel ban, we would have been talking about that more so than we are right now, but it is as expected a new one to come out anytime now.
This is big. I'm told it will come out this morning. A new travel ban. I'm told it will replace the old travel ban. It's going to be narrowed, a little less chaotic. It's only going to, it will not apply to permanent legal residents. It's also only going to apply to 6 predominantly Muslim countries. Iraq is no longer on the list.
And John, one other question from this weekend. It certainly appears from all of our reporting, the president in kind of a boiling rage all weekend long.
Absolutely outraged at the story that won't go away, outraged that his own attorney general recused himself. There was a blow-up in the West Wing, in the Oval Office. You see some of the pictures there. Steve Bannon, part of that meeting. The president brought the senior staff in. He is outraged, and that's how this, and that's the context where this all happened.
And in the middle of all this, gentlemen, in the middle of this political turmoil here at home, a new test for President Trump on the world stage. North Korea firing several missiles, their second round in less than a month. ABC's chief global affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz joins us from Washington. And Martha, how is the U.S. responding to this morning?
Good morning, Robin. U.S. Strategic Command was tracking those missiles and quickly assured Americans that there was no danger to the homeland. And overnight, the State Department condemned the launches. The 4 missiles were not believed to be intercontinental ballistic missiles, but they did travel some 600 miles before landing in the water between Japan and the Korean Peninsula. Regardless of the fact they were not ICBMs, these launches appear to show progress by the North Koreans towards their goal of perfecting a missile capable of hitting the U.S. President Trump has vowed that North Korea will not get a nuclear-capable missile that could strike the U.S. It's unclear how he would stop them, but right now, Robin, the national security teams are reviewing North Korea policy.
Absolutely.
Robin?
All right, Martha, thank you very much. Now, Amy has the morning's other top story, starting with an investigation of the Marine Corps.
That's right. A scandal involving nude photos is rocking the Marine Corps. Over the weekend, it was revealed that an unknown number of current and former Marines shared naked photos of female Marines online. Those photos were shared on a hard drive, which included the women's names and units. The photos have been taken offline, and the military is now investigating. And there are fears this morning of a chemical attack in Iraq. Both the UN and the Red Cross say ISIS appears to have used a chemical agent in Mosul. More than a dozen people have already shown symptoms, mostly women and children. If confirmed, the attack would constitute a war crime. Well, Chicago just spent 6 days without a single murder. That is the longest period without a murder in more than 4 years. There have also been fewer murders so far this year than at this point last year. And new video showing a tractor trailer violently, look at that, jackknifing at high speed across 4 lanes of traffic in Houston. Incredibly, there are no reports of injuries and not a single other vehicle was hit. And finally, history will be made at this year's National Spelling Bee. That's because, look at this little one, Edith Fuller will be there. She is just 5 years old, and she will be the youngest person to ever reach the national event. Edith is homeschooled. She beat more than 50 other kids to win the regional competition this weekend in Tulsa. Her winning word requires a pronouncer for me, Janana, which means path of knowledge. And I love what she said when she realized she won. A 5-year-old. I feel thankful.
Oh,
amazing.
I know.
And we're all floored.
Yeah. No, incredible. So can't wait to watch and see how far she goes.
Oh, that's incredible. Let's go over to Ginger right now. You got a real severe weather threat in the central U.S.?
I do. So, George, we're going to get to the severe weather threat, but it's the same storm that dropped that hail in Madera, California. Vegas, you can see the strip there, power lines down. And look at this image out of Truckee, California. 80 shut down again in parts thanks to all that snow. That same low and cold front come across. It's late tonight through the overnight hours where we see the tornado threat, especially in parts of Missouri, Arkansas, southern Iowa. All right, let's get to select cities now, brought to you by Walgreens.
Look at you, saving money on your Medicare Part D prescriptions. At Walgreens, we make it easy for you to seize the day by helping you get more out of life and Medicare Part D. Now with $0 copays on select plans and rewards points on all prescriptions, Walgreens has you covered. So drop by and seize the savings. Walgreens, at the corner of happy and healthy.
If you didn't like the weekend, our temperatures will be going back up, way up, in fact, close to 60 degrees today, but clouds will be moving in. We'll have some clouds around tomorrow. In fact, some showers a possibility, mainly during the afternoon and first thing early Wednesday morning. 63 our high. It gets breezy by midweek, and temperatures will start dropping again for Friday and especially the weekend. In fact, another little chance of rain Friday, but the weekend on Sunday, tracking the potential for a little bit of a wintry mix, the potential for some freezing rain and snow as we spring forward.
I don't know how cold you were this weekend. Freezing, right?
Yes.
So uncomfortable, but don't worry, things are looking up. This is how close I get when
Way
we're
to start the
getting close to
week.
the